Hello, everybody watching on YouTube, and welcome, finally, to the season finale of Season 2 NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. It is race number 36. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Banquet 400 at Kansas Speedway as we're getting set for 41 laps of really good racing at probably one of the best tracks on the schedule. But I'm not alone for this race. Joining me on commentary for the first time in quite a while, one of your favorites, one of mine. Please welcome to the booth, Mr. James Qualls. You know. So, with that said, before we look at the starting lineup, we got the big story coming into this race, and that is who's going to come out your season champion, because we got five people that are going to fight it out for the title as my door opened again, like it's been happening every race now, it seems. But we're going to keep going. So it's between the top five drivers who have been relatively top five in the points virtually most of the season, and they're going to duel it out for the championship. So, statistics and how they stack up in the race today. So the points leader coming into this week is David Rivera, who just became the points leader after last week at Sawmill. His statistics: he has only one win, 8 top 5s, 10 top 10s, average finish of 17.2, and, of course, leads by 3 points. Second, Nelson Thornhill, who's got a tied for the season highest amount of wins of 4 wins, 6 top 5s, 14 top 10s, with an average finish of 17.6, and he comes in 3 points behind Rivera coming into the race. Third is Chris Michaels, who has been the points leader most of the season, and he's got 1 win, 7 top 5s, 12 top 10s with an average finish of 17.7, and he's 20 points behind David Rivera. Fourth, Dorian Facepuncher, who has 3 wins, 9 top 5s, 14 top 10s with an average finish of 18.1, and he's 30 points behind. And then finally, Raphael Leduc in 5th with 2 wins, 9 top 5s, 14 top 10s with an average finish of 18.3, and he's 34 points behind. So some of the big scenarios you got to keep yourself in mind. Nelson Thornhill is going to have to finish 3 spots or more over David Rivera to be at least a co-champion or to be the season champion, because, like I said back at Sawmill last week, whenever we have a tie for the championship, we'll give it to both of them to do co-champions. So if Thornhill wants to be a co-champion or be the solo champion, he'll have to finish 3 spots or more over David Rivera. Chris Michaels, on the other hand, he's going to have to finish 20 or more spots ahead of David Rivera and 17 or more ahead of Nelson Thornhill to get the championship or be a co-champion. Dorian Facepuncher is one of the 2 long shots. He's 30 points behind, so he's going to have to finish 30 spots ahead of Rivera, 27 over Thornhill, and 10 over Michaels if he's going to be a co-champion or be the champion himself. And then Raphael Leduc, the major long shot, with 34, so he's going to have to finish 34 spots ahead of David Rivera, 31 over Thornhill, 24 over Michaels, and 4 over Facepuncher if he's going to have any opportunity to win this championship. So, any expectations with those 5 that you have in mind, Qualls? So it does seem like the quiet one is essentially Chris Michaels, who has been. He and Leduc had been the pretty much the two dominant driver points leaders all season. Chris Michaels in the second half, Leduc in the first half. And Michaels, like of course, he's got not as big of a challenge as Facepuncher or Leduc, but still a pretty tough task. He's got to hope to win the race and hope that Rivera and Thornhill finish outside the top 20. Which you never know with this racetrack because there's always passing going on. Drivers can get left up the high side and drop back like a rock. Or if you get on the bottom, you can rocket your way up to the front in a matter of just a few laps. Hell, I remembered back when we were here earlier in the season. If I recall, I believe it was, I want to say it was Trent Dunham who started in the very back of the field and drove his way up into the top 15 within about 4 laps. So anything can happen at this racetrack, which is why it's one of my favorite tracks to go to on the schedule, because hardly any wrecks, always great racing, and with the new component for this time around, pit strategy, since the rate has gone up for pitting, we could see pit strategy be the deciding factor of who wins the race and the championship. And then there's one more quick championship battle I do want to talk about, and that's the Rookie of the Year championship fight. It's pretty much going to come down to one of these three rookies, as it's separated by 4 points among each other. Mark Lane, who's in the 56 for Michael Waltrip Racing, and he comes in 15th in the driver standings with 3 wins, 5 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and an average finish of 19.5, or 19.8, excuse me. And then the next one would be Nathaniel Reed, who's 3rd in the rookie standings, only 4 points behind Mark Lane, but in the regular driver standings, he's 7th in the points, with 1 win, 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s, and an average finish of 19.2. And then the third one is Matt Haas, who's 2nd in the rookie standings, only, as I'm double checking, 3 points. Well, actually, no, I'm looking at it wrong. No, Matt Haas is 6 points behind, and Nathaniel Reed is 2 points behind. I guess I was looking at last week's points. Because fun editing fact, I'm recording this after the Sawmill race, and the Sawmill race hasn't been edited yet. But beside the point, yeah, it's pretty much going to come down to one of those three to decide who wins Rookie of the Year. If I have to go with a prediction, I go with Mark Lane, because despite missing a couple races early in the season, back whenever I believe it was in the first few of the season, he only missed, I think, 2, and he's been rather consistent, but at the same time, he's had some bad luck, but we shall see what he can do. Nathaniel Reed, who has been top 15 in points all season long, and then Matt Haas, who's been lately impressive, moved himself out of being outside the top 30, and the highest he got up to in the points was like 13th, so he's been really, really impressive in that 77 car. But what about you? Who do you see potentially winning Rookie of the Year? Yeah, Facepuncher, yeah, he's another one of those quiet drivers. In fact, most of his NR career, he's been rather quiet. However, back in the Walmart Cup days, he was a former series champion and multiple race winner. And he's kind of keeping that trend going here, as he, along with a couple of people, I believe Thornhill being one of them, and Poteet being another, tied for the most series wins of 4 in the 2 seasons we have had so far. But enough of talk like that. Let's go and take a look at the lineup. Starting in the last row, we have Chris Dollerton and Dylan Poteet. Now, let's take a look at the top 10 and then where the top 5 in the points are going to start. But in the top 10, Tim Fiegel is on the pole for the race this week. Starting next to him is his teammate Reed Ralden. Row 2 is Carson Gum and Nathaniel Reed. Row 3, Sean Galligan, Preston Plord. Row 4, Dylan Young, Grayson Ace Veto. And then row 5, Matt McIntyre and Jesse King. Now, where are the top 5 drivers in the points going to start? Chris Michaels was the highest qualifier in 15th, then Thornhill 17th, Leduc 18th, and then Facepuncher 35th, and the points leader David Rivera 38th. So we're going to be interested to see how they're going to race it out here in the opening laps. But with that being said, let's finally go ahead and get the command to fire engines for the season finale, the Banquet 400 at Kansas.
Drivers, start your engines!
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You were going to say, Qualls? Yeah, this version's the 2012 repave, and it has really brought out great racing ever since we've been at this track, all the way back in the Walmart Cup days. We have been here, and it's always been fantastic. Rarely any big wrecks or wrecks in general, but we shall see how it's all going to be, because they're going to be more aggressive today since this is the finale, and drivers want to impress to end their seasons on a high note before we move into Season 3 here in a few weeks. Well, here we go, pace car in the pit road, and it's time to boogity 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 go racing. Well, the gamble paid off for one lap for Sean Galligan. He got to lead lap 1 as now Dylan Young, last week's winner at Sawmill, is now up here at the front. And look at Chris Michaels, right now the highest running of the championship contenders. And if things were to stand right now, depending on where Rivera and Thornhill are, he could be the champion right now if the race were to end, as he's now trying to move into second and maybe get to the race lead. Yep, 2 rookies, Jesse King in the 51 and Nathaniel Reed, one of those Rookie of the Year battle drivers. Right now, he could be the Rookie of the Year right now because Mark Lane's really far back, and you got Jesse King in between them. Matt Haas, I have no idea where he could be, and now Nathaniel Reed's going to take the race lead over from Chris Michaels. Indeed. Here comes Emmanuel Hartnett in the 20, and Emmanuel Hartnett, despite not being in the championship hunt, he's had a very, very, very good season. He'd been top 10 roughly all season long, but he was just kind of stagnant in between 8th and 11th all season. Couldn't really get too much momentum going, but still a great season nonetheless for him. And then right behind him is the Daytona 500 winner, JT Bryant, who's had a rather up and down season, to say the least. And now here comes Mark Lane, the Rookie of the Year points leader. Right now he would still be your Rookie of the Year by only 1 point, but now he goes by Reed for position. And maybe could be going for the lead, too. 3 wide. Yeah. And ironically, those same paint schemes as well, if I recall. But, look who's coming into the picture. Kev Shearer in the 12, who, similar to JT Bryant, has had an up and down season. And then right behind him is his teammate, Chris Dollarton, in that 23 Xbox car. And final announcement as to what number Dollarton's going to run. It looks like he's going to stay in the 23 next season for Young Motorsports. And Dollarton, on the other hand, right now we got 1, 2, 3 Young Motorsports right now. There's only one that's not up here, and that's the owner, Dylan Young, as he slipped back after he led early on. Yeah, it's like I said, don't discount where you start. It's all about where you finish. It's very similar to how you run at Talladega Daytona, and it does kind of have that restrictor play racing feel to this racetrack, but just not to the point where drafting's going to help. It's just all about making your moves and working your way one by one. And Nathaniel Reed coming back, and he actually led that lap, barely over Dollarton, and here comes Carson Gum in the 19. Yep. And here comes Seth Cole, who's 6th in the point standings. And Seth Cole, despite not winning a race, he's had a consistent season. He's been around that 6th position in points virtually all season long. Though he wished he can win a race, but he could potentially do that as he's up here in the mix. But so is Kev Shearer, who's going to try and spoil the party for not only Seth Cole, but for Carson Gum as well, 3 wide for 2nd. As meanwhile, here comes the 21 of Benjamin Miles, Charles Sanford coming up into the picture, and Preston Plord as well. Yep. But let's actually now take a break from watching the fights up at the front and see where our championship contenders are running. Let's see where David Rivera is. Currently scored 22nd with Thornhill right next to him. Those are the top 2. And then you got Raphael Leduc right behind him. Chris Michaels up in 11th, so he'd only gain about half the amount of points he needs. And then Dorian Facepuncher way in the back in 39th, so not a good run going for him. Oh, and we got a pit stop happening. Poteet's on pit road. Could that be a sign for green flag pit stops to come? Yep, and Charles Sanford currently up at the front right now, and Chris Michaels, who just a moment ago was 11th, and now he's up to 2nd within 2 laps. It sure does. As meanwhile, 2 Tweenix teammates are up here running in the top 5. You got Johnny Gardner in the 15, and this is the last race he's running in that 15, as next season Tim Walsh will be coming back to the series to run that famous car of his. And Gardner will be moving on to the 7 car for Seth Cole Motorsports to be teammates with Seth Cole and Anthony McCreary. And then there you got Jesse King in the 51, and Jesse King will not be back next season. And in fact, the returning James McLeod will be back in his rightful number in Season 3. So a lot of old-timers from the old days are coming back next season, so it's going to really shake things up in terms of who's going to be very competitive. The young guns coming in, or the seasoned veterans. As meanwhile, Sanford still leads as King right now in 2nd in the battle for 3rd. Gardner has it, but Mark Lake wants it. I just only hope that when we get... Oh, pit stops. Some of the top 5 came in the pit as I'm trying to find if anybody else is coming in with them. Only 7 cars out of the group of cars are in. So you got Jesse King, Mark Lane, Qualls is there, Fiegel, Shelton, Shears, and Collard all coming in the pit as the first major group of cars to come into pit road. And it looks like Sanford's slowing down, but Hardnett and Shear and Michaels are going to stay out. Some pit strategy, but you can definitely tell they will have to pit one more time with just a few laps to go because they're not even at the halfway point just yet. So you can definitely tell when we get closer to the end of the race, they will have to make one more stop. And now... Exactly. So only one car is yet to come into pit road, and that's Emmanuel Hartnett, who's still leading right now. This could be good strategy for the 20, but we've seen times in the past where if you stay out too long, you could lose a lot of time on the guys who had already pitted. But now Hartnett's now in the pit road, so now everybody has made a pit stop at some point in the race. So we're going to keep an eye on Hartnett, see what he's going to do. So far, it looks like 2 tires and gas. Will he go for 4? Yes, he is. Yeah. As we now are looking at Nelson Thornhill, Dorian Facepuncher, they're racing close together on track. 2 of the top 5 contenders right now. As we're looking around the field to keep an eye on things, so only big question is who will be the race leader whenever everything cycles around. There goes Matt Haas, who's got his lap back. And here comes everybody else up to the 20, and I think, yeah, Hardnett's going to lose the lead, and I think Gardner now is the guy up at the front currently. So let's see if it is official. Indeed, it is official. Right now, Gardner is the guy up at the front. So let's do a full field rundown now that we're past the halfway point and the first of potentially 2 green flag pit stops have concluded. Johnny Gardner is your race leader. 2nd is Charles Sanford. 3rd is Kev Shearer. 4th is Jesse King. Poteet's actually still a lap down. 5th is Mark Lane. 6th, Benjamin Miles. 7th, James Qualls. 8th, Emmanuel Hartnett. 9th, Nathaniel Reed. 10th, Chris Michaels. 11th is Dougie Shears. 12th is JT Bryant. 13th, Dylan Thoreau. 14th, PJ Williams. 15th, Tim Fiegel. 16th, Seth Cole. 17th, Jessica Shelton. 18th, Chris Dollerton. 19th is Ashlyn Boyd. 10th is Trent Dunham. 20th, what am I saying? 21st. I've made that mistake before, so it wasn't the first and it definitely won't be the last. But anyways, 21st is Joshua Collard. 22nd is the points leader, David Rivera. 23rd is Carson Gum. 24th, Preston Lord. 25th, Anthony McCrory. 26th, Dorian Facepuncher. 27th, Nelson Thornhill. 28th is Phil Parker. 29th, Austin LaPlante. 30th, Matt McIntyre. 31st, DJ Curtis. 32nd, Raphael Leduc. 33rd, Joshua Zakuli. 34th, Dylan Young. 35th, Charles Jackson. 36th, Grayson Acevedo. 37th, Kyle Matthews. 38th, Reed Rowden. 39th, Sean Galligan. 40th is Paul Minnick. And then 2 cars a lap down, scattered, are Matt Haas and Dylan Poteet. Is a battle for the lead. Kev Shearer had it, but Gardner's going to take the spot back. Yep. So, it'd be really, really hard to tell right now as to who is the champion right now. because, yeah, you got Michaels who's up ahead, but I think currently Rivera would still be your champion. But you got Thornhill, according to scoring, who's only 2 spots behind. He needs to get at least 3 spots ahead of Rivera if he's going to be a co-champion at least, or be the champion solo. We still got a long way to go, so anything can still happen. Yep, and then right now, the current Rookie of the Year points leader, Mark Lane's having a great run going in the top 5. He's about to get challenged by Emmanuel Hardnett, who maybe the strategy of being the last one to pit may work out a little bit because he's caught up to the leader. He just needs to figure out what timing he's going to have to rely on to get around Sanford and then the Gardner. As meanwhile, Kev Shearer is going to go by for 5th over the 56. And then there's a Dylan Poteet in between 5th and 6th place, which right now James Qualls having a great run going. So definitely well-deserved run for one of the 4 Retro Racing Enterprise cars. And then you got Jesse King, who was a contender for Rookie of the Year a couple weeks ago, and just a couple bad runs as of late has taken him out of the hunt of getting anywhere close to that. And Poteet coming back in the pit road. I believe, yeah, early on, he and Matt Haas, yeah, they were the first 2 to come in the pit road. But they're not going to be close to the front as they keep getting lapped by everybody. So I guess that strategy for those 2, being the first 2 to pit, didn't really work out too well in their favor. So tough break for those guys. And quick fact with Poteet, he'd been outside the top 30 in points virtually all season. And he became the first driver in Marvel Studios Cup Series history to win 3 races in a row and end up with 4 wins total, tied with Nelson Thornhill for most all season. Yeah, and that's all kind of attributed to how he had some bad runs early in the season. But Gardner's been very, very tough to pass ever since those pit stops have happened. Of course, Shearer managed to get by Gardner for a lap or 2, but Gardner just came right on back to him. And Gardner, I believe if he were to win, I think this would be win number 2 this season for him. I can't remember where he won earlier in the season, but he is a winner this season. But Shearer is actually catching the 15, maybe to try to fight him again. He very well could, and I can definitely tell we are getting very, very close to the second round of pit stops. As if I recall, when everybody started pitting at different times, I believe it was back on laps 17, 18, and 19 when drivers would come into pit road. As I see Charles Jackson going into pit road, yeah, he was the first of the lead lap cars to pull out on the pit road. As meanwhile, we got the fight for the lead. Shearer's got the run using the apron, and I think he's going to get him off of turn 2. As I'm looking around to see if anybody in the back has pitted yet or not. Let's see if any of the leaders are going to pull down. Oh, Gardner and Mark Lane are going to pull down. If I recall, yeah, they were among like 7 drivers out of the lead lap cars of a group that came in. And it is virtually almost the exact same from earlier. So, yeah. Oh, Collard, Sheldon, and Fiegel all pitted beforehand. And there's Charles Jackson coming out. As we're looking around the field to try to find where Kev Shearer is. There he is, and he's still staying out on track. I definitely don't think they're going to stay out the rest of the race, because if not, because if they are, they're going to run out of gas. There is no way they can make it the rest of the way. But we'd see if maybe Hartnett, because remember, he was the only one, he was the last one to come in, although he's going to slow down with Shearer. So he's not going to go for that same strategy. So he's going to come in with the 12. And I think everybody has come in. So everybody trying to do their own thing right now. As I'm looking around to see where everybody is, and everybody's in the pit road or coming out, and whoa, some contact! But they keep it together, Shearer and Hartnett. This could be the fight for the lead if everything cycles around right, but you never know. Yep, but Hartnett's still right there on his tail. And you gotta wonder, whenever everybody cycles around, could this be the fight for the lead? Well, there's Sanford, who's approaching those two, running 20 miles an hour faster. I think still Shearer and Hartnett have cycled back around as the leaders properly, and it's 2 laps to go here at Kansas. And I've got no idea where any of the championship contenders are running currently, but let's try. Rivera, 19th right now. Michaels, 12th. Facepuncher, 29th. Thornhill, 23rd. That's not good. And then Leduc, 27th. So right now, I think Rivera would still be your champion as the white flag is out. As this battle between Hartnett and Shearer just keeps going, and Sanford is slowly reeling them in, but I don't think he's going to get to Hartnett, but he might get by Shearer for second. But Emmanuel Hartnett right now up at the front, and it looks like it's going to be all his. Coming off a 4, checkered flag waving. Emmanuel Hartnett wins the Banquet 400 at Kansas to get his first career Marvel Studios Cup Series win. Yep, indeed. So let's look at the final results of the finale to conclude Season 2. Charles Sanford finishes the season strong with a great second-place run. Kev Shearer, so close, but comes out with a great run in third. One of the dominant cars of the day, Johnny Gardner, comes out fourth. And we may have, well, we'll see here in just a moment, but Nathaniel Reed, who was 2 points behind Mark Lane in Rookie of the Year standings, comes out fifth. Dylan Thoreau with a great run in sixth. Solid seventh place finish for P.J. Williams. Great run in eighth for J.T. Bryant. Solid run in ninth for Benjamin Miles. And a great run in 10th for Chris Dollarton. The rest of the top 20 was Dougie Shears, James Qualls, Tim Fiegel, Chris Michaels, Trent Dunham, Ashland Boyd, David Rivera, Mark Lane, Jesse King, and Joshua Collard. So by that logic, so Nathaniel Reed was 2 points behind Mark Lane coming into the race today for Rookie of the Year, and he had two rookies finish in between him and Mark Lane. So I think by 1 point, Nathaniel Reed won Rookie of the Year, but we'll know officially afterwards. But anyways, rest of the top 30, Austin LaPlante, Preston Plord, Carson Gum, Nelson Thornhill, DJ Curtis, Dorian Facepuncher, Anthony McCurry, Raphael Leduc, Dylan Young, and Phil Parker. And the rest of the lead lap cars were Matt McIntyre, Grayson Acevedo, Kyle Matthews, Joshua Cooley, Seth Cole, Paul Minnick, Sean Galligan, Reed Rowden, and Charles Jackson. Everybody else was a lap down, and they were Dylan Poteet, Matt Haas, Jessica Shelton. But Nathaniel Reed wins Rookie of the Year, and David Rivera wins the season championship, as the only guy that finished ahead of him was Chris Michaels, but Chris needed to win and Rivera to be back in 20th or 21st. So David Rivera gets his third career championship on this channel. He was a two-time, I believe he was a two-time Walmart Cup Series champion, maybe one time, but he gets his first Marvel Studios Cup Series championship. So great job for that 6 team, and David Rivera will be back next season in that same ride, which is basically his ride forever at this point. So congratulations to Nathaniel Reed for winning Rookie of the Year, and congratulations to David Rivera for winning the Season 2 NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series champion. But man, oh man, what a race that was to conclude what was a really good season. But don't you worry, Season 3 will be here soon. I give it about until early November. Early November will be when Season 3 will kick off with Daytona Speed Week. But until we get to that point, I actually want to thank Mr. James Qualls for stopping by the booth for this finale. Indeed. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to all the races, all 36 races this season. So, with Season 3 coming soon, so the big change is that we are moving back to a chase system. We're going to do top 10 points with 2 wildcard drivers to make the chase for Season 3. So, we'll see how that's all going to turn out. But until we get to Daytona Speed Week in Season 3, here are your final results of the race, your final rookie points and final regular points. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off for the rest of the season, and we'll see you in Season 3.